Good morning. It is December 15th, 2024. This is Debbie Davis. So I want to do a follow-up today regarding that one phone call and the complaint that I made right online with elderly abuse in Hennepin County. I've had a lot of my videos have involved Hennepin County. And so there's more things going on here. There's like more. I want to just share what has gone on since I filed that complaint with elderly abuse and adult abuse. Then I had this other issue with Hennepin County where I got pulled over by that unmarked sheriff, and I had to have an appointment with a hearing officer December 5th, and that's where you just plead, guilty or not guilty or whatever. And I said not guilty, and I want to see the footage, and I think you need to be in trouble for having an unmarked cop out here without permission with the public commissioner and, with no markings at all, doing traffic stops, which unmarked cops are not supposed to be doing traffic stops. They're supposed to just be for undercover or detective work. So I think they should be in trouble, not me. But the other issue, I've shared a lot of issues about Hennepin County in the past. I shared about that issue where this guy just last year died in jail. They knew he was suicidal, coming from a drug treatment center. He should have been on suicide watch. Instead, he was actually handed a noose, and he hung himself. So the woman the mother filed a huge lawsuit against the county. And they might as well have the Hennepin County workers, jail workers. They might as well have handed him a gun to just kill himself. It's just, I think it's clear that we're dealing with not normal personalities. I think that we're dealing with secret societies that think they're above the law. And I've shared this before, that I know a lot of them are involved in these secret societies. And they clearly think they're above the law. But what's happening with this latest thing, I had filed with adult and elderly abuse because there was several different issues with his family, with John's family, where they were scaring people's nurses off. They didn't feel comfortable. They would say, we need we need your social security number because we pay you with an LLC or whatever. And some of them were just coming over and volunteering. And so, if you're volunteering, you don't need to give that information, that type of stuff. Several issues. They wouldn't, mostly it was because they weren't working with John, because he has a medical issue with his back right now, where they weren't sending somebody over to watch the mom when he needed to leave for his appointments. So then that was neglecting his care. So I had filed 2 complaints. One of them was, one of them was regarding the mother, because she is a stroke victim, and he's having a hard time taking good care of her because of his back injury. But then, all he needs to do is get proper care and go to his appointments, but they won't work with him. His family won't work with him and send a proper, like the state and the family are not providing like a nurse. So anyway, after this complaint, it really didn't help. It actually, made things worse. So they sent this woman over. Her name is Roberta Kinshin from Hennepin County. And then John finds out that this is a friend of his family member, his sister, Sarah. They're neighbors and friends. So that would be considered a conflict of interest, and that would be considered illegal if, because I filed the complaints against his sisters. So you can't send a Hennepin County social worker out to deal with the situation that is actually friends with the person that you complained about. That's anybody knows that knows anything about the law in court and everything. That's called a conflict of interest. You know, if you're related to somebody, you can't be picked for a jury trial if you're related in any way to the person being tried. You know, it's like most people, this is like common knowledge. You know, any normal person would know that woman shouldn't have been assigned to the case. So she comes out and after I file that complaint, and she does nothing but try to push hospice care. I mean, it's not that he doesn't want help. You know, somebody to come out. He's willing to have somebody to come out. There's nothing wrong with her. She's not dying. So why do you need to force hospice care? She's a stroke victim, but she's not dying. All of her vitals are perfect. So I don't know. So she's coming out, and she's actually made things worse for him, not better. And she hasn't checked on him at all. I filed two complaints, and one of them was against his treatment, because by his own sisters, you know. So it's just, you know, because I've seen the manipulation and different things that go on. I was witness to, and so anyway, it's not that he, you know, is against putting her in a nursing home or having, you know, proper care, so it doesn't takes the weight off the rest of the family. It's just that it's more complicated than that, because the reverse mortgage that's on their house, one of the stipulations is that she has to be actually living there, otherwise the bank alive and living there still, otherwise the bank goes in and takes the house, and he's trying to prevent and, you know, trying to work with that situation so they don't lose the house and that kind of thing. So, but this woman comes in, and she's making things worse. And so I called Hennepin County. I called the adult services, and I got transferred to some supervisor. And then I got this phone call the other day when apparently, so I called adult services and asked for a supervisor. I got apparently transferred to a supervisor, and then that supervisor called me back from there and transferred me to somebody else. Here's the
unit with DHS returning your phone call. You had some concerns regarding something. I'm trying to be generic. You can contact the county and speak to them. I'm not sure, as someone who provided information, if you made a choice to receive an initial disposition or if you were anonymous. So that kind of changes the factor a little bit. Hennepin County, it sounds like it would be Hennepin County. You could call in and ask to speak to a supervisor and express your concerns with them directly.
So I had already called the adult services line, and they transferred me to a supervisor. So now she's calling me back and saying I got to call Hennepin County and be transferred to a supervisor. So we're getting just the runaround. And I said, I basically said, this woman should never have been even assigned to this case. She needs to be recused, or it's a conflict of interest because she's friends with the one of the siblings that I filed a complaint against, and so she should have been removed at that point. If anybody has any normal common sense and brains in their head, knows that that's a conflict of interest and that she has to be she can't be assigned to the case if she's friends with the person that's in the complaint. It's just like does anybody know the law anymore or common sense? So but they're making it hard, and so she actually went over there and called when she was last there. She called 911 out of nowhere, and he's like, why? And they come over, and her vitals are perfect, and even the fire and EMT said, well, her vitals are fine, so what is the emergency? So this woman has actually made the situation worse. The person that they assigned from adult and elderly abuse. So I'm sure we're not the only one that might be dealing with this situation where it's really easily to take advantage of older people, and I'm sure a lot of that goes on. But yeah, and then you assign a person that should never have been assigned, and not she's not out. And then they asked me different things like, does she need supplies? Does she need, and all that stuff? And I said, yeah, they need diapers, they need food, they need, so he's trying to work all this. And they haven't, she hasn't addressed any of those complaints. Like I said, did she get you diapers, or is she helping you in any way? And he said, no, she just comes by and checks on my mom and then tries to force hospice every time she's been out there. So hospice, we all know what hospice means. That hospice just means that they put you in a home, and that's and they just make you comfortable before you die. And a lot of times they give you a bunch of morphine, and you don't last long. Usually hospice is just, somewhere to go die. But she's not dying. So I feel like this woman is actually doing something really illegal. She's trying to force the hospice on somebody that is not dying. So I don't know what kind of crime that is, but it seems like a crime to me. She's making things worse. So I don't know, what is the crime when she's trying to force hospice on somebody that's not dying? Her vitals are perfect. So yeah, so this is the latest situation with Hennepin County adult abuse. So I wanted to share. I mean, everything is just, I've been watching the news about these drones and all these different things. I think the overall problem in our country is these secret societies have, think they're above the law, and a lot of them are in high positions all over our country. And I've said this before in many of my videos. So they don't they put their own people in all these different positions, and manipulate the situation. And so I think that's what we're dealing with, is these secret societies all over that are just not addressing anything correctly. And it's a power struggle right now. Huge power struggle, because they don't want Trump to get back in. And, so, I've been saying the same thing for years on my videos. Okay.